Imagine turning 90 and waking up each morning to the same battered walls that have witnessed fires roaring down the Hollywood hills and landslides ripping through your garden. Picture the ache of discovering you can no longer recall the melodies that once soared from your lips, melodies that the world once sang back to you. This is Johnny Mathis right now, alone in a house heavy with memories he struggles to summon. But his isolated life is no simple tale of aging or memory's slow retreat. Behind these battered walls lies a darker saga. Secret injections administered by famous doctors, private battles with addiction, and a choice made nearly 7 decades ago that continues to cast its shadow over his final years. The real story of why Johnny Mathis's 90-year-old days are shrouded in sadness isn't what you'd expect. He was born on a crisp autumn day in Glamour, Texas, in 1935, one of 7 children in a family scraping by on the margins. His mother, Mildred, cleaned large homes in segregated neighborhoods, and his father, Clem, chauffured wealthy families by day and tinkered with piano keys by night, nursing unspoken dreams from a life on vaudeville stages. When little Johnny first hummed "My Blue Heaven" at the age of 3, Clem saw hope flicker anew. He began teaching his son songs from a past that racism had long tried to erase. That tiny spark of music would grow into a beacon, guiding Johnny from the dusty roads of East Texas to the center stage of America's greatest theaters. By 1940, the Mathis family joined the Great Migration, trading Texas sun for the jazz-soaked nights of San Francisco's Fillmore district. Their basement apartment on Post Street was cramped, with all 9 Mathises sharing 2 rooms. But outside their door, the air pulsed with possibility. Music poured from every club, every corner. And young Johnny was its keenest student. Clem chopped wood to keep the place warm, while Mildred polished floors for extra nickel. But it was inside that modest den that a used upright piano, bought for $25, became Johnny's whole world. Clem dismantled it, carried each piece through the narrow door, and reassembled it. The sight of those heavy wooden legs rising into place under the lamplight convinced Johnny that music could lift anyone above the hardships of race and poverty. In high school, Johnny was more than just a budding singer. He was a star athlete. At 5'7", he launched himself over a 6'5" bar, winning city championships and capturing headlines alongside a young Bill Russell. For a moment, the Olympics seemed within reach. By 1954, he stood 2 inches short of qualifying, just 3 inches shy of the 1956 team. Then came a telegram from Columbia Records offering a recording contract in New York. 2 dreams collided: Olympic glory or a life dedicated to song. The choice would define his future, and he chose music. But even as he climbed the charts, the ghosts of that unchosen path haunted him, and not just as what-ifs. They became a refrain in his mind, joined by darker notes of fear and uncertainty. As "Wonderful, Wonderful" climbed the Billboard charts in 1956, Johnny was thrust into a world glittering with success and shadowed by unimaginable threats. He sang full houses in Las Vegas and New York, yet behind the curtains, organized crime held sway over the hottest clubs. As a black man, he was barred from the luxury suites where he performed. He slept in cars or youth hostels, haunted by death threats whispered across makeshift dinner tables. In the Deep South, the rumors swirled that someone would shoot him on stage if he dared to perform. He risked everything, moving constantly to keep himself alive, as he sang his signature, chances are, refusing to let terror mute his voice. The thrill of triumph was tempered by the grim reality that each night could be his last. Amid the tours and the flashing lights, another battle brewed, one hidden from adoring fans. Johnny began receiving mysterious injections from a physician known for treating celebrities. What started as a remedy for exhaustion and laryngitis soon morphed into dependency, as amphetamine-laced shots coursed through his veins. To quiet the tremors of fear and maintain his trembling voice, he turned to champagne as a sedative. The more he drank, the more he needed, until the stage lights had to be dimmed to hide the tremors beneath his gloves. This was the darker story behind the birthday celebrations and lifetime awards. Private addictions that threatened to drown the legend he had worked so hard to create. Then came 1982 and a moment captured as off the record. A casual remark to a gossip reporter about his sexuality unleashed a firestorm of death threats and boycotts. Radio stations dropped his songs, venues canceled dates. Without warning, Johnny Mathis saw his carefully built world teeter. Though born and raised in the tolerant streets of San Francisco, he faced intolerant fury from parts of the country that could not accept his truth. Yet he refused to vanish. Quietly, he continued to create, to record, to defy the whisper campaigns that tried to bury him. He found an unlikely ally in Nancy Reagan, who noticed his struggles at a White House reception and arranged for him to receive treatment at a Jesuit-run rehab center. It was an intervention that would save him, though few would ever hear that story on the evening news. By the turn of the millennium, Johnny Mathis had not only endured, he had reinvented himself. At age 63, he released a tribute album to Diane Warren that reminded the world of his unmatched vocal grace. His songs climbed the charts again. Critics hailed his interpretations as timeless. Even as memory began to slip, he held tight to the music, recording new holiday albums and lending his voice to duets with the next generation. Then, in 2015, tragedy visited his Hollywood Hills sanctuary. Flames roared through the night, threatening to consume decades of trophies, photographs, and memories. Yet Johnny emerged unscathed, his gentle spirit intact. He refused to leave the only home he had known for half a century, despite another landslide in 2023 that threatened to bury his legacy under mud and debris. Today, he is 90, and his voice, though softened, still carries the echo of a half-century of triumphs. He uses a teleprompter to guide him, and memory slips more often than it stays. But each time he steps on stage, he reminds us of every risk he took, every night he defied fear, and every note he poured from his soul. In the quiet moments at dawn, as the California sun lights up the remains of his beloved piano, one wonders what keeps him going. Is it the applause of an audience that never forgot him, or something deeper? A vow to the little boy who first hummed "My Blue Heaven" in a cramped Texas home. At 90, Johnny Mathis lives in a house battered by fire and mud, haunted by secrets of injections and addictions, and weighed by a memory that slips like sand through his fingers. Yet there is beauty in his persistence, hope in his final refrain. The real reason his last years are so heartbreaking isn't just old age or illness. It's that he gave everything he had, voice, heart, and soul, to a world that sometimes wanted him silenced. And still, He sings on.
I float over, feeling each other over, breathing for the rest of the shells, each other, and the surface, every distance, and the able to this has a good lot, and I applaud this amount of the land, and this amount of all, and others is sustainable. They were, you know, and they ended up in.
Morning sunlight filters through shattered memories as Johnny faces another day. His body feels heavy with age, yet his spirit remains undiminished. A flute of champagne sits untouched on a nearby side table. He watches the bubbles rise slowly before drifting into stillness. They remind him of applause swelling in concert halls decades ago. Each bubble echoes moments when his voice lifted souls toward light. Now those stages are empty spaces inside his mind's fading landscape. He closes his eyes, remembering the roar of an adoring crowd. But memory slips like sand through his trembling fingertips. He clings to fragments, a piano chord, a lyric, a fleeting harmony. Outside his window, a chipmunk scampers across scorched earth. The landslide of last winter left scars upon his beloved home. Yet survival is engraved in every broken tile and charred beam. He places a hand on the windowpane, tracing its cool resilience. A distant radio broadcasts soft jazz notes carrying echoes of youth. He strains to recognize the melody, hoping for reconnection. Music remains the compass guiding him through a labyrinth of forgetfulness. In lucid moments he hums, "Chances Are," with heartfelt conviction. The song's refrain becomes a balm for his weary soul. Yet, after a few lines, his voice falters on forgotten syllables. Caregivers observe, patiently offering gentle pitches from printed lyrics. They stand by, respectfully preserving dignity within fragile boundaries. Johnny nods, gratefully acknowledging support even when words escape. He remembers voices praising his smooth tone and romantic delivery. Those accolades once lifted him above hardship and pain. Now they echo softly as distant thunder on a summer night. Despite memory's retreat, he senses purpose still burning inside. He reaches a frail hand toward a worn vintage microphone. Its silver grill glints like a silent invitation to perform one last time. He inhales deeply, feeling adrenaline stir beneath his tired veins. Fear still resides here, masked by decades of rehearsal and routine. He recalls nights battling stage fright beneath bright spotlights. That agony once fueled perfectionism, carving his voice into legend. The world heard his heart expressed through velvety notes and gentle phrasing. His albums sold millions while his name adorned neon marquees. Yet no accolade could erase scars carved by prejudice and rejection. He faced threats in the Deep South while singing soulful ballads. Each standing ovation tested resolve against whispered promises of violence. He chose courage over cowardice, delivering melodies amid threats. That bravery still resonates within his every living cell. The evening shadows lengthen, painting sorrow across battered walls around him. He senses storms approaching, echoing the fury of old tragedies. Lightning might strike, once more uprooting memories like fragile roots. Still he stands anchored in passion, refusing to let go. A framed photograph catches his eye, revealing a younger self. Broad smile and shining eyes reflect unbridled hope and ambition. Nothing beyond that moment seemed more important than music's embrace. He touches glass lovingly, whispering gratitude to that boy within. His life became a series of melodies orchestrated by faith and sacrifice. He sacrificed family meals to practice voice and piano late nights. He refused comfort to chase an echo only his heart heard. Those sacrifices built an empire of songs that transcend time. Millions found solace in his soft baritone across silent living rooms. Yet solace he sought in silence behind closed doors. Addiction crept softly through veins, disguised as performance aid. The line between remedy and ruin blurred under stage lights' glow. He battled dependence long after applause faded into darkness. Recovery arrived through intervention from a figure few expected. Nancy Reagan noticed his tremors and arranged discreet treatment. That act saved his life more than any award could. In late years, he escaped headlines, preferring quiet reflection. He embraced simplicity, finding peace in bird songs and sunrise. Each dawn reminded him life remains possible beyond the spotlight. Memory may fade, but music persists through heart and spirit. At 90, Johnny Mathis still sings to himself among ghosts of triumph. He sits quietly reflecting on collaborations that defined musical history's landscape. Duets with Natalie Cole, Dionne Warwick, and Kenny G revived his renown. Each partnership revealed versatility, surprising listeners who expected only ballads. He navigated pop, jazz, and classical realms with authoritative yet humble grace. Critics lauded his adaptability, praising each album's nuanced emotional depth. Fans discovered new generations singing those enduring melodies every holiday season. Even producers sought his presence to imbue projects with timeless romantic elegance. Awards filled display cases, yet joy remained rooted in creation, not trophies. Now, creation means finding solace in humming songs within familiar rooms. Tomorrow's uncertainties fade when he recalls the first note sparked lifelong devotion. Forever sustaining. Night descends over the Hollywood hills, and in his secluded living room, Johnny Mathis sits alone before the grand piano that once rang with triumphant chords. The warm glow of a reading lamp illuminates a scattering of photographs and gold records along the mantel, reminders of a career that once soared. Yet now, as he traces the outline of a silver microphone long retired, his thoughts drift toward a lifetime of choices. He remembers the telegram that pulled him from the track field to the recording studio and how he never looked back. Even today, that crossroads echoes in every silent moment, a reminder of a destiny shaped by a single decision. His house is quiet but heavy with the echoes of decades of applause that slip further from his memory with each passing day. In the hush of midnight, he reaches for a pill bottle hidden in an oak drawer, its label faded and worn by time. Those small capsules tell a story beyond lyrics and tunes. A tale of exhaustion and necessity that once promised relief and instead delivered dependency. He recalls the slick hands of a celebrity physician whose injections offered fleeting restoration at a terrible cost. The lights on stage demanded perfection, and he delivered with flawless precision, yet behind the curtain his voice trembled with need. He remembers the first time he realized the shots were more than vitamins, a rush of energy that spiraled into restless nights and aching regrets. Recovery would come only decades later, after dire warnings and an intervention that few would ever know. Tonight, with trembling fingers, he sets the bottle aside and rests his hand on the piano's cool ebony, searching for solace in a chord. Outside, the wind picks up, rustling palm fronds and rattling window panes as if urging him forward. He pauses, recalling the night a landslide tore through his driveway, burying a neighbor's car under mud and debris. That disaster mirrored the ones that scarred his body, the forces of nature indifferent to fame or fortune. Yet once again he emerged unbroken, rebuilding walls as he rebuilt his spirit time and time again. It was in those moments of destruction that determination took seed. He would not allow disaster to define him. He would rise from each crisis with stronger resolve, letting music flow through the cracks in his heart. Even as memory falters and age encroaches, his will remains anchored in the melodies he still carries within. Each morning, caregivers coax him to the piano bench, encouraging him to play the first notes of Misty Roses, hoping those familiar chords can steer him back home. Time has a way of reducing grand moments to fragile memories. He remembers performing at the Hollywood Palace in 1964, standing before millions with a voice that melted hearts and being invited back again and again. This evening, those lights feel distant, replaced by the soft glow of a bedside lamp. He closes his eyes and imagines the drums, the orchestra, the roar of an audience that once rose in unison. Just one more refrain, he thinks, but the words slip away, carried off by the wind like petals from a dying rose. He reaches for a recording of "It's Not For Me to Say," the song that cemented his place among legends. The needle drops, the needle hisses, the first notes emerge, and for a brief moment, the world returns. The room brightens with the sound of his past, a fragile lifeline that reminds him who he is. His trembling breath steadies, his spirit lifts, and he knows that even in twilight, the music will not abandon him. Throughout his 90 years, Johnny Mathis has weathered storms, both literal and metaphorical. He has stood on stage as spotlights bore into his soul, and backstage, he has trembled with doubts and fears no audience could see. He has tasted victory in ballrooms and tasted bitterness in waiting rooms. He has loved, lost, and found redemption in each new song. Tonight, as he sits alone amid his echoes, he allows himself a final confession: that his greatest joy has always been the simple act of singing in a room, filled with listeners who lean in, hanging on every note. In this twilight sanctuary, he hears the gentle applause of his own heart. The struggle to remember lyrics becomes a metaphor for life itself. Fleeting, precious, and worth holding onto with every fiber of being. Johnny Mathis may be 90, his body fragile and his memory unreliable, but his spirit sings on, a testament to a lifetime defined by perseverance, passion, and the enduring power of music. His song lives forever with us. Dawn arrives like a hesitant promise, the sky still painted in soft grays as a gentle knock sounds on Johnny's bedroom door. A familiar caretaker enters with a tray holding warm tea and a small plate of fruit, each slice arranged just so. He sits at the edge of the bed, his presence both comforting and respectful, offering the day's first anchor. Johnny blinks against the light, recalling only fragments of yesterday's melodies, and for a moment wonders if his voice still lives within him. Hope and doubt dance in his mind, two opposing currents pulling him toward the piano waiting quietly down the hall. He rises slowly, bones creaking in the quiet house, supported by a polished cane carved with initials and dates marking his earliest triumphs. Each step feels deliberate, as though he's walking through a gallery of memories. Faded photographs, gold records, and tour posters lining the corridor walls. Somewhere beyond these doors, stages still call his name. But in this moment the journey feels longer than ever. He steadies himself against a side table and gazes at a single photograph of his younger self mid-jump, leaping higher than any man his size should. That image once symbolized promise. Today it reminds him of the choices that built his legacy. In the breakfast nook, sunlight spills across a set of lyric sheets printed months ago in a bid to help him remember. He picks one up reverently, fingertips tracing the faded ink. The words to "It's Not For Me To Say" beckon like ghosts, familiar yet elusive. A caretaker hums the opening line under his breath, soft enough so as not to startle. Johnny closes his eyes, letting that voice guide his memory back to clear waters. For a few precious seconds, he can see the studio lights, feel the microphone's weight, hear the echo of his voice filling the room. Then the memory slips, water draining through his fingers. Later, as afternoon light filters into his study, Johnny settles into a worn leather chair cradled by mountain views. He holds a slim volume, an unfamiliar autobiography someone gifted him years ago, and turns to a random page. The words describing another life blur across the page until a phrase catches him. From ashes, I rose. Those words stir something deep within him, sparking a memory of the fire that consumed his Hollywood Hills home in 2015. He remembers watching flames devour years of trophies and photographs while firefighters rescued what they could. He survived that inferno, just as he survived the harsher infernos of prejudice and addiction. Resilience has always been his silent companion. A music producer once told him the secret to his voice was how he embraced imperfection, the slight tremble that made each phrase human. Now, as he listens to his own recorded voice crack on an old vinyl playing softly in the next room, he realizes the truth of that. Those tiny fissures, once hidden by harmony, are now the threads that hold his story together. They whisper resilience, honesty, and the raw emotion that shaped generations of listeners. In that fragile beauty, he finds solace, a reminder that no matter how memory fades, emotion endures in every note he ever sang. As golden hour settles over the hills, Johnny makes his way to the grand piano. His fingers hover above the keys, recalling lessons from a vocal coach who taught him discipline, breath, and freedom. He presses down on a single chord, listening to how it reverberates through the room. That one note ripples like a pebble dropped into still water, awakening a deep echo within him. He leans closer, running each fingertip along the ivory, piecing together melodies stored in muscle memory. The caretakers watch quietly, waiting for the moment when spark might ignite and he'll play full chords again. Evening arrives with a hush, the house settling around him like an audience holding its breath. He moves to a side room where family letters and childhood mementos rest beneath glass. As he reads a carefully folded note from his father, a photograph slips out a younger Clem and Johnny on a ragged porch, smiles bright despite worn clothes. That simple image speaks louder than any award. It's a testament to hope passed from father to son, a legacy sewn into his DNA. In that moment, he feels less like a fading legend and more like the boy who first discovered music's power to rise above hardship. Nightfall brings an air of reflection. Johnny sits alone by a window overlooking the hills, the city's lights glittering like distant stars. He sips his tea slowly, each swallow a meditation. Thoughts drift to moments he never shared on stage, first heartbreaks, private fears, the exhilaration of choosing art over athletic glory. He remembers the telegram that changed his life, and the one-off, the record comment that nearly ended it. Scandal followed him like a shadow, yet he refused to hide. He continued to sing, to create, to live in full voice even when the world turned away. In the late hours, as the caretakers complete their final rounds and the house grows still, Johnny Mathis leans back in his chair, eyes closed. He listens to the distant echoes of his last public performance, the gentle applause that carried him for decades. Memory may slip, melodies may fracture, but the heart remains. It beats in time with every note he ever shared. And as dawn waits beyond the hills, he sits enveloped in a quiet truth that even at 90, with walls scarred by fire and mud, with a mind haunted by echoes, his spirit sings on.